Discover the incredible transformation of this grandma. A heartwarming tale of overcoming trauma. Mary Thompson hadn't always felt the weight of the world on her weathered hands. At 72, the gleam of youthful ambition had been replaced by a fierce determination to keep her late husband's hardware store afloat in a rapidly changing world. The shop, nestled in the heart of Maplewood, was not just a business. It was a legacy. And yet, as she swept the wooden floors, the familiar creak of the door brought with it a haunting silence. Sales dwindled like the last rays of summer sun, leaving behind shadows of doubt in Mary's heart. While families gathered for summer fairs, her own felt like it was drifting apart. Emily, her vibrant granddaughter, often spoke of big cities and bright lights, her dreams clashing with Mary's rooted values. The rift between them felt like an aching void. Each family barbecue filled with laughter echoed the gaps of misunderstanding that weighed heavily on Mary's chest. Couldn't Emily see the beauty in staying rooted, in nurturing what their family had built? Just as despair began to weigh her down, Michael, the gentle veteran and her neighbor, stopped by one afternoon, his quick smile bringing a momentary spark of joy. "Let me help you bring this place back to life, Mary. We'll beat the odds together," he said, his steady hands reaching for the dusty old display cases. As they brainstormed new strategies, memories flooded back sun-drenched afternoons spent in the store with her husband, his laughter resounding through the aisles, reminding her of the resilience they had built together. Together they began to breathe life back into the store. Sales began to trickle in, and a warm sense of community blossomed anew, a feeling Mary had feared lost forever. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In the midst of this newfound hope, disaster struck. A legal notice arrived like a thunderstorm over pastures, threatening the very store that had defined her life's work. The news spread through the town, sending shockwaves echoing through the streets. But in this moment, when despair threatened to flood Mary's heart, the community rallied. They came with stories of overcoming, of shared struggles, each tale a patch quilted together with resilience. For the first time, Mary felt the undeniable bond of something greater. The warmth of shared humanity wrapped around her like a comforting quilt on a chilly night. Among the crowd gathered outside her store, Emily stood silent, her eyes bright, perhaps understanding for the first time the beauty in their roots. Yet, as the documents loomed ominously over her, Mary's heart trembled with uncertainty. Would she mend her relationship with Emily in time? Or would the weight of their unspoken struggles tear them apart for good? The stakes were higher than ever. And as Mary faced the entrance to the store, she knew this was just the beginning of a journey that could change everything if only they could see the hope shining through the cracks. The next few days passed in a blur of hurried conversations and community meetings. Mary felt as if she was running through molasses, the weight of uncertainty clinging to her like a woolen blanket. The looming threat to her store felt like an uninvited guest, sitting at her dinner table, whispering doubts into her ear. Emily visited more often, her hands busy with creating colorful flyers for upcoming events at the hardware store. Though they worked side by side, the silence between them was tense and thick. Mary wanted to say something to bridge the gap, to make Emily see how much this store meant to her, but the words eluded her. One evening, after a particularly long day, Mary sat on the small porch steps outside, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The air was cool, carrying the scent of grass and nearby lilacs. She could hear laughter from the park a few blocks away, families enjoying the last warm nights of summer. It tugged at her heart. "Grams!" Emily's voice cut through the evening air, bright and full of energy. Mary turned to see her granddaughter running toward her, cheeks flushed with excitement. "Guess what? I got some local musicians to play at our event. It'll be fun and draw people in." Mary smiled, though a knot twisted in her stomach. "That sounds lovely, sweet pea," she replied, forcing a cheerfulness she didn't fully feel. "Simon, let's South make this place shine." Emily's enthusiasm was infectious, and for a moment, Mary felt a flicker of hope. They spent hours brainstorming, painting signs, and decorating the store. Emily even suggested they host a contest, inviting local residents to share their favorite DIY project. The idea took off, each passing day washing away a bit of the despair that had lingered. But while Mary warmed to the efforts, she still noticed the underlying tension. Emily was driven by dreams of leaving Maplewood behind. She wanted to chase the city, its glimmering allure, a world filled with endless possibilities. Mary's heart sank with the knowledge that the very things she fought to preserve were the ones pulling them apart. The night before the big event, Mary found herself awake, heart racing. She looked over at the empty side of her bed, the covers still. Memories of laughter and love filled the silence but were now mingled with a profound sense of loss. As dawn broke, Mary decided it was time for honesty. She took a deep breath and swept to the dining table, pen in hand. She wrote a letter to Emily, pouring out her heart about the store, her late husband, her fears. Just as she finished sealing the envelope, Emily entered the living room, yawning and stretching. Mary hesitated, the letter clutched tightly in her hand. "Hey, can we talk?" she asked, her voice wavering. Emily looked up, sleep still in her eyes, but something flickered in her gaze at the tone of urgency in Mary's voice. "Sure, Grams. What's up?" With the rising sun casting a warm glow, Mary felt the pressing need to share all those unspoken words. Would Emily truly understand? Would it change everything? With her heart pounding, Mary opened her mouth, but before she could speak, the doorbell rang, slicing through the moment. Who could it be? A feeling of uneasiness washed over her again, but she shook her head. Today was for healing, for connection. Perhaps it had finally arrived, a challenge or opportunity. The universe testing their resolve. As Mary turned toward the door, something inside her whispered this was only the beginning. What awaited them on the other side? As Mary approached the door, her heart buzzed with anticipation and dread. Who could be interrupting this fragile moment? She swung the door open, and her breath caught in her throat. There stood Sam, the old neighbor from across the street, his usual jovial smile replaced by a furrowed brow. "Mary, I hope I'm not intruding," he said hastily, but Mary could see the urgency in his eyes. "Not at all, Sam. Come in," she offered, stepping aside to let him enter. Her mind raced. Was something wrong? "Have you heard about the zoning meeting tonight?" he asked, glancing nervously back out the door. "No, I haven't," Mary replied, sensing that this was not just small talk. Her pulse quickened as she realized how important this could be. "They're planning to discuss some changes that could really impact Maplewood," Sam continued, his voice low but steady. "There's talk about allowing corporate outlets to move in. You know what that means for places like your store. I just thought you should know. I'm going to be there." Mary felt her heart sink. A corporate takeover meant everything she had fought for could be ripped away in an instant. "All the more reason for our event tonight, right?" Emily chimed in, standing close behind Mary. Mary's eyes darted to her granddaughter. Emily's optimism clashed harshly with the reality Sam had just laid out. "It's not that simple, Emily," she said quietly, words catching in her throat. "Of course it is. We need everyone there to rally for the store, to show what it means to this community." Emily pressed, determination lining her features. "But if they want to go ahead with the plans," Mary's voice trailed off, heavy with sorrow. She hadn't expected this to happen. The possibility that all their hard work could just slip away shattered her. "We can't give up," Emily insisted, gripping Mary's hand. "Let us turn our event into a rallying cry. We'll gather support right here." Mary's heart ached, caught in a whirlwind of grief and hope. Could they really fight? Would they be strong enough together? Sam stepped in again. "Emma's right, Mary. The town needs to see how much these local shops matter. If we show our community spirit, we can make a difference." Tears pricked Mary's eyes. She understood that the love for the store wasn't solely about wood and nails. It was tied deeply to their shared history and the stories woven into its walls. "Okay," Mary whispered, drawing in a shaky breath. "Let us do this." With the resolve breaking through her initial despair, they quickly gathered supplies, making posters and finishing touches for the event. As they worked, laughter bubbled to the surface, a sound Mary thought she might never hear in the same way again. Later that evening, the chatter outside grew louder. Families and friends began gathering around the hardware store, their faces glowing with anticipation. It felt alive, pulsating with energy and a sense of purpose. Emily looked at Mary, eyes sparkling with excitement. See, Grams? This place really means something to people. But as Mary looked out at the crowd, anxiety crept back in. What if tonight didn't change anything? What if their voices got lost? As she clutched the letter she had written, now tucked safely in her pocket, she realized that this was about more than just a store. It was about fighting for love, history, and the family they had created together. With a deep breath, Mary stepped forward, ready to address the crowd. The sound of her heartbeat seemed to drown out all else, and that familiar knot twisted in her stomach. What she didn't know was just how transformative this moment might become as she caught Emily's eye. The door creaked ominously behind her, and someone stepped into view. The crowd hushed, eyes widening as the figure emerged, shattering the fragile sense of hope. Who was it and what did they want? The tension in the air thickened, setting the stage for an unexpected turn. Mary squinted against the bright porch lights, trying to see the figure that had just stepped inside. The crowd, once filled with a sense of unity and excitement, now stood in anticipatory silence. Whispers skirted through the air like restless shadows, anxiety palpable among her neighbors. As the figure approached, clarity emerged. It was Charlie, the town's mayor. His usual confident stride was replaced with a hesitant shuffle. The tension in the air thickened, and Mary felt her stomach twist. "Charlie," she called out softly, almost as if confirming he was real and not a fragment of her nerves. He stopped short, hands stuffed deep into his coat pockets. "Mary, he looked out at the gathering crowd, taking a moment to gather himself. "I just wanted to talk to you and to all of you." A sense of dread washed over her. The last thing she needed was a long-winded speech filled with political niceties. She stepped closer, trying to absorb the urgency behind his demeanor. "What do you mean? Is everything okay?" The mayor took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the crowd, then landing back on her. "I'm afraid I couldn't get the word out in time. The zoning decisions, they're happening sooner than I would have liked." His voice wavered, meeting the weight of collective disbelief. Gasps echoed among her neighbors, and Mary felt the ground beneath her shift. "What do you mean?" "So tonight is critical. We have a chance to voice our concerns before the meeting starts. I just found out about it myself." He hesitated before adding, "I don't want you to lose this place, Mary. I truly believe the heart of Maplewood lies within businesses like yours." Her heart raced, a flurry of emotions coursing through her veins: fear, anger, but much more prominently, hope. The store wasn't just plywood and paint. It was a cornerstone of their community. "We can't let this happen. We need to fight." The crowd stirred, excitement sparking once again. Mary turned to Emily, her granddaughter's eyes shining with that infectious determination. "We need to move right now," Mary said, hastily gathering herself. "Words are powerful, but action is what this town needs." Charlie nodded, caught up in the momentum. "Let us push for community support. If we show them the strength of what you all are fighting for, I believe they'll listen." Through the noise of rustling posters and chatter of anxious voices, Mary started directing people, rallying them to spread the word on social media, create more posters, and gather up stories that highlight what the hardware store meant to each individual. The energy surged, fueled by a shared goal. As she immersed herself in the commotion, Mary felt alive again, as if the weight she had carried for too long began to lift. The smile on Emily's face reminded her of the beauty and connection in their fight together. "Keep that spirit alive," Charlie encouraged, his presence reassuring, grounding the moment. As they worked, the urgency felt more like an unyielding fire, stoked by shared memories and unbreakable bonds. But just as hope began to weave its way back into her heart, a sharp voice cut through the excitement. "You don't think you can actually stop it, do you?" Everyone turned to see Tim, the local developer whose ambitions threatened everything they loved. His looming figure cast a shadow over their gathering. "There's no stopping progress," he said, a smirk creeping onto his face. Tension skyrocketed once again, filling the air like electricity. Mary felt her resolve shake, just a little. But she wouldn't let fear win. "Who said we had to fight alone?" she called back, her voice strong despite the fluttering in her chest. "We have a community that stands behind us, and we're not backing down." The crowd erupted, cheers ringing through the night as they stood united. But deep down Mary felt a growing concern. Tim's smirk would not easily fade, and she knew he wasn't backing down either. With every heartbeat, she realized just how much was at stake. Could this unity truly make a difference? What lengths would they need to go to in order to protect their heritage? With Tim's presence looming, a showdown was clearly on the horizon. Mary glanced at Emily, who met her gaze with unwavering belief, ready for whatever came next. What lay ahead would test their spirits beyond anything they imagined. Would they be ready for the storm they were about to face? The stars twinkled faintly against the deep night sky, their light overshadowed by the fervor of the crowd. Mary could feel the energy pulse through her like the rhythm of a heartbeat. The fire in her chest burned fiercely, igniting the determination of those around her. She took a deep breath, ready to act. "Okay, everyone," Mary shouted, raising her hands to capture attention. "Let us gather our stories. Each of you has a memory tied to this store. Let us share them loud and proud. What this place means to us, it is what will save it." With her enthusiastic words echoing in the cool evening air, neighbors nodded, exchanging quick glances that said, "This is it." They weren't just employees or customers, they were a family. She could see the spark in their eyes like a lighthouse illuminating the path ahead. Emily jumped in, her voice bright and steady. "Let us get a photo too. A picture of us united as one. We can put it on social media with our stories." The crowd roared with approval and cameras began to click as people gathered closely, arms draped over one another. Mary smiled, her own heart swelling with pride and hope. These were not just random faces, they were the faces of her community. But as the commotion picked up, Tim stepped closer, still watching with that infuriating smirk. It was a tactic she knew well: intimidation. He thrived on fear, trying to sow doubt in their minds. "Just remember," he interjected, "we play by my rules. You think this will matter? A bunch of stories and selfies? It's cute, but not enough." Those words could have sunk her spirit, but instead they ignited a fire within her. "Oh, we'll show you what matters," Mary called back. "This isn't just our story. It's the story of every dream built within these walls. It's a part of Maplewood's lifeblood." The crowd surged again, echoing her sentiment. Mary relayed urgent thoughts. "Let us gather everything we can: petitions, stories, photos. And let us plan a town meeting. We can pack the place. If we stand together, they can't ignore us." Charlie stepped forward, visibly uneasy but starting to catch the momentum. "I think you're right, Mary. I'll make a few calls. We'll need all the support we can get." His eyes mirrored her spirit, sparked by hope and the undeniable strength of community. As they focused on the task at hand, Mary couldn't shake Tim's presence. The shadows of doubt danced at the corners of her mind. Would it really be enough? The truth was palpable. She felt the weight of the town's legacy on her shoulders. They began mixing papers with stories, gathering the voices of laughter, struggles, and successes. Each tale shared added to the collective strength, an emotional portrait of Maplewood drawn by their hearts. Mary's throat tightened as she read some of the stories aloud. "We grew up here. This is where I learned to ride a bike. My first job was here." These snippets resonated, binding them closer. But just as the optimism reached a peak, a loud crash reverberated from the back, pulling startled eyes toward the noise. Someone had knocked over a display, the sound like a warning bell. Mary felt a quickening pulse of panic. What now? Had Tim sent someone to intimidate them? As she approached the something once again, she saw the worried faces of her neighbors, uncertain over the sudden commotion. With her heart racing, she took a step into the chaos, determined to hold it together. "Everyone, stay calm. Let us just..." But the panic was rising. Doors swung, voices grew muffled and distorted. Through the frantic energy, one thing was clear. Something was starting, and it was charged with consequence. "What is happening?" she demanded, her voice straining against the tide. And then, through the crowd that began shifting, a figure stepped forward, drenched in shadow yet somehow familiar. The air froze, holding its breath, as Mary's stomach twisted again. Would this person come bearing hope? Or would they add fuel to the fire her community was trying to put out? This was a pivotal moment, the hesitation between hope and fear, unity or division. She waited, heart pounding, breathing shallow as the figure stepped closer, revealing themselves. Who were they, and what did this mean for the battle ahead? Uncertainty rolled through the crowd like thunder, but amidst it all, the shared heartbeat of the community echoed louder than any fear could dim. As the figure stepped into the flickering light of the fire, Mary's breath caught in her throat. It was Mrs. Thompson, the beloved librarian, whose warm smiles and wise words had soothed countless souls in Maplewood. But now her face was drawn, worry etched deeply in her brow. "Mary!" Mrs. Thompson called out, her voice shaky yet unmistakably strong. "I heard the commotion. I came as fast as I could. Is everyone all right?" The crowd parted, revealing Mary and her neighbors, a mixture of concern and curiosity rippling through them. "We're trying to save the store, Mrs. Thompson, but we just had a crash. Something doesn't feel right." Her heart still raced, but seeing the librarian gave her a sliver of strength. "I thought as much," Mrs. Thompson said, stepping closer, her eyes searching the crowd. "I have something to share that may help us all. It's urgent. Let us hear it," Emily urged, her voice steady. Mrs. Thompson took a moment, drawing a deep breath. "I've been doing some digging into the history of this store, its legacy. Did you know it was started by someone with the same vision? Someone who believed in the power of community?" Mary nodded, encouraging her to continue. She could feel the crowd leaning in, their breaths held, eager for hope. "It belonged to a woman, Clara Bennett. She opened it during the Great Depression, trying to uplift those around her. It survived daunting odds, just like our town does," Mrs. Thompson explained, her voice rising with intensity. "There are stories hidden in those old shelves, tales of people like us. I believe if we can dig up Clara's story, we can inspire everyone to join our cause." Emotions swirled in the air, the weight of the past melding with their present fight. Mary felt tears prick her eyes. This was the spark they needed. "What can we do?" she asked urgently. "We gather those stories," Mrs. Thompson replied, her spirit igniting. "I have archives and records. We need to bring in with us the memories of Clara and others. This store isn't just bricks and mortar. It's about those who came before us. Let us march forward in her footsteps, show how meaningful it really is." A wave of energy pulsed through the crowd once again. This was a rallying point. "Yes, we can honor Clara," Charlie shouted, his face brightening. Mary felt her heart lift, the uncertainty lifting like a morning mist under the sun. "Let us split into groups, gather information, memories, and our own stories. We need all hands on deck." As they broke into clusters, excitement sparked hope. Emily sat with a few others nearby, already brainstorming social media strategies. Mary and Mrs. Thompson headed for the back room, the dusty archives beckoning them with promise. Each page they turned would be a step closer to rallying the town, but just as they started rummaging through the old records, a loud thud echoed again, this time more deliberate. Mary exchanged worried glances with Mrs. Thompson, concern pooled in her stomach. They moved quickly to the source of the noise. Driven by instinct past the rooms of forgotten tomes and tales, they found a group of unfamiliar faces, figures cloaked in frustration. "What are you doing here?" one of them barked, eyes narrowing. Mary felt a chill ripple through the air, tension swirling like a storm about to break. "We're just not interested in history," they interrupted. "This place needs to go. This is just a relic." Dread washed over Mary. They were here to shut them down. Time was running out. "What will happen if we lose this?" she shot back, words coming out stronger than she felt. But their response was cold, uncaring. Just another business closing its doors. Nothing more. Mary's heart raced. The community was counting on her. She couldn't let fear win. "Hold on." Mrs. Thompson's voice rang clear, snapping Mary back to the battle at hand. "We'll show you the value beneath these doors." And a sudden realization gripped Mary. This was their moment to confront not just the outsiders, but their fears and doubts. With determination swelling inside her, Mary took her place in front of the crowd, facing not just their uninvited guests, but the insecurities within herself. "Then let us prove the worth of our history. Let us show them what Maplewood really stands for." A rising chorus of voices joined hers, breathing life into the resolve. But as the heated exchange filled the air, her pulse quickened with uncertainty once again. Would they have the strength to push back against not only these challengers but the shadows looming behind them? What if they didn't know the whole truth? What if they had underestimated the strength that had always silently dwelled within the store? The crowd buzzed with determination, but doubt nagged at Mary. What exactly would they uncover in the tales of the past? Could they truly change the future before it slipped through their fingers? The tension hung thick, punctuating a moment when everything felt balanced on a knife's edge. The heat of the moment weighed heavy in the air, and Mary could feel her pulse racing, syncing with the rising tension. It was as if time stood still, the buzz of determined voices creating a symphony of defiance around her. Each heartbeat echoed a single thought. They had to fight. With a deep breath, Mary stepped closer to the group, confronting them, standing tall against the tide of intimidation. "You don't understand what this place represents," she insisted, her voice unwavering. "It's a hub of memories, connections, and stories that bind us together. Without it, our community becomes just a collection of strangers." The disdainful sneers of their opponents lingered in the air, but as she glanced back at her neighbors, Mary found new strength in their faces. They weren't just bystanders, they were a part of this tale, just like Clara Bennett had once envisioned. "Listen," Mrs. Thompson interjected, her voice cutting through the noise. "We can uncover the legacy that lives here. You think those stories don't matter? They're living proof that we can overcome, just like Clara did." Her eyes sparkled with conviction, and Mary could see a flicker of doubt cross the faces of the outsiders. "Holding on to the past isn't a weakness, it's our strength," Mary added, emboldened by Mrs. Thompson's words. "We have the power to change this narrative. We just need to remind everyone of the heart that beats within these walls." One of the outsiders, a young woman with arms crossed, hesitated. "And what if you fail? What if digging up the past just digs you deeper?" Mary felt a pang in her chest. What if they did fail? She thought about how many times she had doubted herself, how easy it would be to let that insecurity take hold. But in that moment, she also recalled the stories the townsfolk had shared before, stories of triumph and resilience. "Then we failed together. But we'd rather try and fall short than not try at all," she said, her voice stronger than ever. "That's what community is for, lifting each other up when risks come our way. If we unite, we can make it count. Together we can be Clara's legacy." A murmur rippled through the crowd, a wave of energy shifting toward determination. Mary's heart raced, not out of fear, but out of hope. The outsiders exchanged glances, uncertainty thawing the ice of their hostility. "What do you propose?" the young woman asked, her arms slowly uncrossing, hinting at cracks in her defense. "Let us show you," Mrs. Thompson replied, a glint of excitement in her eyes. "Help us uncover the stories in these archives. If we can breathe life into Clara's vision, we can demonstrate how valuable this store truly is." Mary's chest swelled with hope as she saw the potential for change. The warmth of community ignited a passion in her belly, one that urged her to unlock every tale stored within the old shelves, beckoning the memories of everything that had happened in Maplewood. "Yes, let us come together, share those moments. You'll see how important this place is," Charlie shouted, energy blazing his face. But even amid the rekindled hope, Mary felt trepidation lurking just beneath the surface. What would they find in those dusty archives? The whispers of yesterday could unveil secrets that turned the tide for better or worse. Will the truth be enough to save us? She thought, a deep-seated worry creeping in as the group began to stir with renewed purpose. And just then, loud shouts erupted from outside, grabbing everyone's attention. The harsh buzz of a live news feed being reported reverberated through the air, pulling a strange chill over Mary's fervor. What had they stirred? A shadow of doubt crept back in, blending with the excitement of discovery. Was they ready for whatever lay ahead? Would the truth uplift or crumble the very foundation they fought to protect? The crowd shifted uneasily, eyes darting toward the entrance. An uneasy silence settled as they prepared to face an unknown foe. Everything felt unpredictable once again. The door swung open with a creak, and the chill of uncertainty rushed in. A group of reporters flooded the room, cameras flashing like fireflies in the night. Mary's heart stumbled over itself as voices clamored to be heard. The crowd of supporters shrank back, instinctively drawn into a circle, whispering fears and doubts. "Can we get a word from the community?" a reporter called out, pointing a microphone toward Mary. It felt like a spotlight pinning her in place. She swallowed hard, the pressure of not just her words but all of their hopes hanging in the balance. "Now. Right now." She managed to stutter, glancing at Mrs. Thompson, who nodded encouragingly. Talk about Clara Bennett and why this place matters to you. Another voice chimed in. Mary took a deep breath, feeling the weight of eyes upon her. Clara envisioned a haven for everyone, she said, her voice gathering strength. This store isn't just about selling books or trinkets. It's about sharing the stories that shape our lives. It's where we come together, where our past becomes a part of our future. The murmurs among the crowd began to shift towards support again, and Mary felt a spark within her. If we lose this place, we lose our connections. We lose our history, and that's something we can't afford. The young woman from before nodded, stepping closer from the outer ring, her skepticism fading. This was different, this was beyond just business. The camera focused on her, capturing the moment of reckoning. What if you're too late? What if the decision has already been made? The reporter pressed, her tone sharp. That struck a chord, sending a ripple of anxiety through the audience. The outsiders exchanged worried looks, and Mary's insides twisted at the fear that clung to the air. She had to counter that with something strong enough that would resonate. No, she replied, her voice steady this time, buoyed by the determination around her. It's never too late. Look at all of us gathered here. We will fight for this place together. We have stories, we have each other, and that is powerful. That can't be silenced. As she spoke, the anticipation grew. Hearts began to beat in unison. Hers was no longer the only hopeful beat. The reporters leaned in closer, intrigued not only by her words but by the palpable spirit in the room. What stories? One reporter asked, challenging her. What makes your stories worth telling? Mary looked around at those gathered, their lives interwoven with the very walls of the store. Stories of laughter from children, tears of loss, and moments of joy. Every story matters. Each laugh and tear builds our community. When we fight for our history, we're fighting for each other. We're fighting for those who came before us, and for those who will come after. A wave of applause broke out, echoing through the air. Hope surged within, electrifying the atmosphere. She was no longer just Mary. She was their voice, their hope. But just as quickly as the sense of unity sparked, a sudden loud crash interrupted. A group of individuals, faces stern, pushed their way through the gathering, holding up placards that demanded the closure of the store. Anger brewed in their shouts, drowning out the applause. Mary's heart sank. What is happening? She asked, her spirit cracking just a little. Do they intend to shut us down? Mrs. Thompson whispered, disbelief painting her features. Mary felt the ground shift beneath her. The fight wasn't just against attrition. They were now facing a direct threat. Fear threatened to weave its way back into their resolve, but this was not the time. Stay strong, Mary called out, urgency snapping through her voice. They may try to intimidate us, but we stand together. Would their voices be enough to shield their legacy? Could they hold their ground against this new, tangible threat? As the tension in the room thickened, Mary sensed it was only just beginning. Could they ensure that Clara's dream didn't slip away in the chaos? The shouts intensified, slicing through Mary's speech like a hot knife through butter. Images of Clara's store filled her mind, mixed with the faces of those around her, each one representing years of memories, love, and shared triumphs. But now those memories felt threatened, just like the shaky voices of her supporters. Let us not let them drown us out, Mary shouted again, her heart racing faster. She shifted her gaze toward the protesters. Their harsh faces seemed unmoved by the tide of emotion circulating through her community. Mary! A voice from the crowd broke into her thoughts. It was the young woman she had noticed earlier. What should we do? Stand firm, Mary said, the determination in her voice surprising even herself. She felt invigorated by the question. We can't back down. We have to show them why this place matters. A few supporters began to step forward, forming a barrier between the protesters and the rest of the crowd. Mary's resolve bolstered as she watched them shift into formation. This was her community, and they weren't going down without a fight. The protesters brandished their signs more aggressively, and the chant of "Close it down" rang out again. Mary grappled with the weight of the situation but took a deep breath. Here was the pivotal moment. This was what Clara had fought for. Could she really rally them to respond? Listen. Mary raised her voice above the din. What are we fighting for? It's not just a store. It's a sanctuary for ideas and inspiration. It's a home for every story that defines who we are. The crowd around her began to nod, their expressions fierce and determined, yet unsure. The murmurs of agreement rippled through, seasoned with urgency. Then, from somewhere in the back, a small voice chimed in. My daughter learned to read here. Mary turned to see an older man, his eyes welling with passion. And my brother, before he passed, found solace in those books. This store is where he lived again. Despite the protesters' noise, the crowd reacted. People lifted their arms, sharing their own stories, moments that intertwined with the legacy Clara had built. Each voice added to the growing chorus of resistance, and slowly but surely, the protesters began to falter, caught off guard by the strength of collective testimony. This place has brought us together, Mary shouted, her heart swelling with emotion. And if we have to shout to save it, then that's what we'll do. But even as they rallied, a wave of uncertainty crashed over her. Would this be enough? Would love and community truly triumph against the relentless tide of greed? A tall man in the front caught her eye, his face lined with anger and determination. We're not just defending a store, Mary. We're standing up against erasure, the erasure of our history, our stories. As if on cue, the crowd surged forward, their voices growing louder, replacing fear with empowerment. Mary felt an exhilarating rush. The heartbeat of the community echoed through her. Yet, just as victory seemed at hand, she caught sight of a news van pulling up outside. Anxiety wormed its way back into her stomach. Would the press portray them as heroes or troublemakers? Stay with me, everyone, she urged, realizing their reaction would depend on how the world saw them. This isn't just a fight for today. It's for tomorrow. The stakes had never felt higher. As the cameras turned their lenses toward the chaos, Mary understood that their actions today would echo long into the future. Would they leave a legacy of bravery or be written off as a footnote in someone else's narrative? With that thought racing through her mind, Mary faced the crowd, their collective strength surging like waves crashing against the shore. As she stood there, she knew this was only the beginning. What awaited them on the other side of this struggle? How much were they willing to sacrifice for the sake of their stories? The night stretched on, the crowd a sea of faces, each filled with hope and determination. Mary felt the energy pulse around her, weaving connections stronger than the fears that had threatened to unravel them. With every chant, every shared story, they were stitching their community back together, a vibrant tapestry of resilience. It was clear they stood on the frontier of something monumental, a struggle to preserve not just a store, but the heart of Maplewood. Just as Mary began to believe their unity could withstand anything, a figure took the stage nearby. Tim, the local developer, climbed onto a makeshift platform with a confident smirk, and the crowd quieted, tension thickening in the air. What a show you all are putting on, he shouted sarcastically. But let us face facts, this store can't survive on nostalgia alone. Mary felt a knot of anger twist in her stomach. He was right, they couldn't rely solely on memories. But they had something much more powerful. Tim, she called, cutting through the murmur of disbelief around her. It's not just nostalgia. It's about community. People thrive here, dreams are born here. Families are built here, what more could you want? Tim scoffed, unfazed. Progress is about growth. Letting go of the past. He glanced at the news cameras, sensing an advantage, the lights glinting off the sweat on his brow. Look around you. Why cling to what's long gone? This time it was Emily who stepped forward, her eyes blazing with defiance. Because it's not gone. It's alive and it matters. If you can't see that, then maybe you're the one who should leave. The crowd erupted, cheers ringing out, bolstering her courage. Mary caught Emily's eye, pride swelling in her chest. Let us turn this into a story, our story, Mary proclaimed, the urgency in her voice filling the space between. We'll gather the evidence, the memories, and the voices that matter. We'll show you how we define progress, not through faceless chains but through connection. With each word, the crowd's energy transformed. They were no longer just defending a store. They were shouting for the soul of their town. This, Mary gestured broadly, is a legacy built of love and history. And we're going to fight for it. As she spoke, she could see the underlying fear start to fade from the faces around her, replaced by the steadfast resolve that had begun to unify them. It was the moment of realization. They had the power to push against the tide of uncertainty. Mary knew they couldn't back down now. The protests from Tim's group began to diminish, their confidence broken by the unwavering spirit of unity before them. "Look," a voice from the crowd shouted, "we can prove it." The crowd rallied, stories flowing like a river, each voice echoing the importance of the hardware store. Suddenly, the news van turned its camera toward this powerful shift. Visibly moved, the reporters caught every vulnerable and passionate moment, this community's essence brewing in one loud, cohesive voice. Tim's smirk faltered. The spell of doubt lingering over him began to wither away under the warmth of the crowd's love. "You think this is going to change anything? Share your stories all you want, but it won't save your precious store," he mocked. Yet even his bravado wavered in the face of their strength. But then Mary focused on transforming the moment. "No, Tim," she shouted back, her resolve ignited. "This isn't just about one place. This is about every family, every child, every mother and father battling for a brighter tomorrow, all tied to our roots. All of it starts here." The crowd surged again, voices rising like an anthem, stories spilling rapid fire. Tim's presence shrank, overshadowed by their spirit. He could feel the tide shift. This was more than a store. It had become a resurrected heart. Suddenly, a little girl in the front row cried out, "My dad took me here to learn." A wave of murmur swept through. More voices joined, pouring out memories interwoven into the very fabric of the town. The walls of the hardware store held not just nails and tools, but echoes of laughter, love, and growth. Realization dawned on Tim's face like a shadow retreating at dawn. The power of community was wrapping around them all as a comforting embrace far more potent than any corporation could offer. Mary knew they had turned a corner. "This isn't just a fight for me or my store, it's for all of us. We can bring the heart of Maplewood back to life. And that's a story they can't erase." They were an unstoppable force. Together, they were creating a new narrative, one that couldn't be written off as just another small business. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the gathering, cheers erupted, mixing with the soft whispers of hope. They could feel it. The tide was turning, hope was reclaiming its place, illuminating a brighter path ahead. And so, with the echoes of their ancestors catching the wind, Mary took Emily's hand, her heart swelling with gratitude and renewed purpose. Together they stepped forward into the future, united, family strong, fear dissolving like mist in the light of community. This was about legacies, love, and the bravery to change the narrative. And as the stars began to wink into existence, each one a promise of what's to come, Mary realized they had only just begun their journey. The world needed to see this, to feel this. And now was their moment to make sure everyone heard. If you're inspired by this incredible transformation, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm, and comment below with your feelings about this emotional journey. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Help us spread this story far and wide.